They've been there for years. The authorities are aware of this. Sometimes they'll come and mark this X sign, remove, and you look at the date and it's January 2008, and we're in 2013 now. So we need to step up the enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me come back to the studio to you, sir. Think, eat, save. So you're supposed to be thinking of what you eat. Now, what advice would you give the ordinary man out there regarding what he should be eating to help this cause that we're talking about?
Okay, thank you so much. I think basically we eat food to nourish our bodies in the first instance. So in this context, we are saying that you should eat food that are organic, that don't have ample dangerous effect on the environment. You know, that the impact in the cost of the production, the processing, you know, and before the final product gets to you, the whole processes from the input level to it being a final product for you that you want to now say, okay, I want to eat meat.
I want to buy. But how do I know?
That is where
I just go to the market and I select some vegetables and I select some meat. I don't know how they've been produced.
That is where awareness comes in. You know, like in the developed world, you have labeling, environmentally friendly labels on products. You know, we've not gotten there yet. You know, so that's why I said you need to appreciate the environment in the first instance. That this is what gives us life to be on Earth. Before you start looking at all those other higher level like e-labeling, because people are aware. I need to eat organic food because the processing and farming methods are less harmful to the environment.
Sorry, Mr. Fan, can I take it back one step, just one step, to get an understanding? Do we have the level of complexity that is experienced by people in the other parts of the world, especially UK, Europe, and America? Do we have that level of complexity with regards to our food production? Or are we still at the very basic level where a larger percentage is organic anyway?
Yeah, I think we are still at the very basic level because most of our farming methods are still very crude. You know, so these
that's basic. Just basic.
No, I mean, in the whole, if you look at it holistically.
Okay, it's not mechanized enough to give us those kinds of foods that are overly processed.
That is what I'm saying. You know, because the bulk of the food that comes to
so that's good then.
The bulk of the food that comes to the table of the ordinary man are made by small farm holders. You know, the few mechanized farms we have in the country export all or most or all of their what they produce.
So most of the food we eat here is still organic. Is that the point you're making?
Not that it's organic, you know, but some of them, like, I mean, you can go directly and you take your vegetable just around your backyard and all of that, you know. But again, you need to look at it holistically. For instance, now you just read the intro. You need like 1,000 liters of water, for instance, now to produce 1 liter of milk in the production processes. You know, these are what we are saying. You know, so the lead up to the final product, and what we are saying, okay, people should start producing in a more sustainable way that have less environmental impact on the environment. For instance, you have vegetable waste, for instance. We all lump up our waste in one waste bin. Vegetable waste, organic waste that are biodegradable can be composted and utilized. And the degradation of this organic waste gives that methane, which has impact on the environment and contributory to climate change. So these are the issues. Methane too can be captured, like he mentioned about biogas. I know we are talking about energy in the country. These are other alternative, sustainable ways of, also adding on to electricity generation. So it's a whole gamut that needs to be looked at holistically.
Okay, let me ask you the same question. Is the bulk of the food we eat in this country organic?
You see, Nigeria will be stratified if you want to look at our consumption pattern. It's not the same across board. What Lagos eat largely You know, Lagos is a major consuming center. So what Lagos eats is a little bit different from what Osun eats. I've had experience of man in Lagos environment. I was in Lagos environment. I was in Ondo environment, Ministry of Environment. I'm now in Osun environment. So I have quite a good idea of what operates in all of these places. They are not the same thing. Looking at pattern of consumption in Osun, you have largely organic food.
Okay.
Largely. In Lagos, you have a mixed grill of organic, inorganic. The eyebrow people eat inorganic largely, you know, and the fast food culture is heavier. Yeah. While I was in Lagos Ministry of Environment, I was a SSA to Tinubu then on environment. We came up with this policy we call buyback, you know, of nylon. We got some eateries to even be using paper. That was when Nando's and all of them were turning to paper rather than using nylon to wrap. You know, the program, I don't know how far it has gone now, but we had that vision then. You see, the inorganic waste here is more than in other places. For places like Osun, the agrarian waste is more, farm waste. You have more in terms of farm waste there than you have in Lagos. Where you have farm waste will be maybe my 12. You know, where you have my 12, where you have more waste. And I'm happy Lagos State government did something there. They have a biodigester there now in my 12, you know, that takes in this organic waste. Why they could not go heavily is because they have less organic waste here. But we have massive there. So if you are talking about Nigeria, it's difficult to lump Nigeria as one. So it depends on where you are looking at. If you are looking at the hinterland, it's largely organic. If you are looking at the urban center, Abuja, Lagos, maybe Kaduna, you are talking about heavy dose of inorganic component of waste.
All right. So let me just quickly ask you then the question that we asked Dr. Osonwa, and his response sounds like there is serious cause for concern in terms of preparation for the next expected flood that may come, or heavy rain if we don't want to predict flood. If we say heavy rain expected, how prepared, you are in government, how prepared do you think state governments across the nation are?
With my years in environment, some things appears funny now when I listen to people talk. There have been so much sensitization by NEMA, SEMA, but they are not the real issue. They are just undertakers. They have to wait for the crisis to happen. But we have been investing heavily on the undertakers rather than taking care of the man that is sick. You know, that is what I say.
We're ready for the death.
Yes. So it seems as if we feel that this man must die by fire. You know, I have not seen, honestly, by now, looking at myself possibly as Minister for Environment, what I would do, I would dredge River Niger. There's no reason why Nigeria should not be dredging that major. Is a heavy taker of all these channels. They empty somewhere. They don't fly in the air. As Lagos is doing its own, Nigeria as a whole has Niger, Benue. I think Nigeria should be working on those major channels where all these other little channels empty into. Because that was the problem we had last year. Dams now should be opened gradually. Nobody is still doing all of those. And those are things that will create problems in some months' time. And the predictions are there. But we are busy emphasizing emergency management. It's good. I have no problem.
But we can prevent the emergency.
No, we should prevent it. Which is about really opening the valves of the river. We have been told that there will be heavier rains. So it doesn't need rocket science to know that there will be trouble. But what are we doing to avert it? We are not doing much. Except for maybe some few states now that is heavily dredging. Nobody is really doing it, but we are talking of SEMA, NEMA. So I believe that Nigeria, there is nothing. What may be different this year is that there may be better response to the disaster. That is what...
So the disaster will come.
Yes, we are preparing more for it to happen. We are not preparing to prevent it. So, but there will be trauma center. And now, trauma center is coming up in most states, everywhere. You have more awareness. We don't have, we did not have that last year, but we are having more states. Osun is having his own too. Everybody is now having trauma center. That's the undertaker side of it. But nobody is really addressing the environment. Ask people how much they vote for prevent environmental disaster. And we have a different dimension to it this year. That windstorm is going to be heavier than last year. So it's not going to come by waterways alone, but even by space, it's coming by air. And that's why you see that roofs are blown off. It's happening. And how many trees are we injecting into the environment now? Urban trees planting, not afforestation or deforestation. Those are two different things. In our own side, we are putting what we call EDA. We'll soon be doing that. We are injecting 2.5 million trees into urban areas, into where people dwell, because this will serve as windbreakers. It might not serve our own tenure because it takes time for trees to grow, but some people will benefit
in the long run.
Some 4 or 5 years time, Osun will not have problem about windstorm because we are now heavily injecting trees into the space. And I think every part of the country should look more about that. We've spoken heavily about forestation and reforestation. You have lots of funds, but nobody is looking at avenue tree plantings where human being lives. You know, directly this wind will be coming. Nobody knows how it will come next year. It is still there. So rather than becoming more of an undertaker, we should look more at preventing disaster, from happening. And that is a major concern that I have for Nigeria when I look at what is happening now.
Okay.
In the country.
All right. We will have to go to Abuja very quickly so that we need to wrap up now. So let's go to Abuja and talk to Dr. John Osonwa. Your final word in terms of World Environment Day. What do you think Nigeria needs to do for us to align with the rest of the world and position ourselves in such a place that we can say we're part of the Committee of Nations that is working to ensure that our environment is better and safer?
Yeah, the issue is really a very serious issue. I know when you think of food and environment, you don't quite grasp the impact. What we're talking about here, the food that is being wasted, 1.3 billion tons of food per year, is more than the food produced by the entire sub-Saharan region. This food is also enough to feed the 1 billion people in the world who go to bed hungry every day. 20,000 children die every day of hunger. And the food that is wasted is about $1 trillion. So the reason I'm saying this is when we talk about food wastage, it's a very important issue for Nigeria because we are wasting a lot of food, not so much in the consumption aspect, but in the production aspect. So government needs to intervene. We need proper storage systems. We need better transportation systems, rail, even through the waterways, vehicles. We also need to look at what we call outgrower initiatives, where before you produce, you already have a buyer who has agreed to a price and the quantity you will supply. These are mechanisms that government can help to set up. So, and the final thing I want to say is the best thing we can do for Nigeria is to produce locally. Because when you have to import food, as we do, most of the food we eat is imported. Rice, wheat, flour, all these things. So when you produce locally, you minimize the impact on the environment.
Okay, well, I guess that will be your final word. And we now come back to the studio and ask you, what would be your final word?
Well, my final word would be for people to really understand what the environment is and the importance of life, particularly our legislators. He mentioned about little funds being appropriated for Ministry of Environment. The legislators' capacity needs to be built to understand these issues. Like the Policy Advocacy Partnership on Climate Change, which I belong to. We just had a retreat with the House Committee on Environment in Lagos State, with the participation of the Ministry of Environment. You know, I mean, hitherto these are two government arms that don't work together. You know, but with this kind of activities, they are now in a position to understand the issues and can appropriately. And also, beyond planting trees where, you know, people live, which is encouraging, which we all encourage, you know, planning. Our planning system is wrong. People should not live in floodplains in the first instance.
Okay. All right. That's one of the things. Final word, and then we've got to wrap up this segment.
For the World Environment Day, I would just appeal to every one of us, because ultimately we are the consumers. We are the one wasting this food one way or the other. It's not only the ones on the road, even on your table. Only take what you can eat, what you can finish. It's a fashion in Nigeria that you must not finish your food. It's a culture we must change. Learn to eat the last pin of rice, because it takes a whole lot from the environment to produce that rice you are dropping away. So it's not a fashion to just have remnants of food because people take it as such.
Especially at parties.
Yes, parties. If you know what goes into parties in Nigeria, the wastage from parties is heavy. If you are not going to eat at party, don't take the food. Because we are not saying we will not do party, but if you are not going to, don't take it. Then meat is another heavy footprint source. Reduce amount of meat you take. Meat consumption, particularly the red meat, the cow, this. The more you do that, you are saving the environment, you are saving your own footprint, and even the carbon print is heavy when it comes to meat and other products from that line of consumption. It's good, it's nutritious, no problem. But if you take more, maybe fish, you are helping the environment, and create awareness around your own area too, because fasting is also good for your health. I must learn that.
Thank you very much. On that note, we have to say thank you, Mr. Bola Ilori. We say thank you to Dr. John. We'll start from the last, Dr. John Osonwa, climate change expert in Abuja. Thank you very much. Bola Ilori, special advisor to the governor of the state of Osun on environment.
Yeah.
And also Anthony Akwa, an environmentalist and president of Pan-African Vision for Environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, too.